Did you know that Scarface was almost never released? The film was initially given an X rating and was so controversial that writers Kurt Vonnegut and John Irving walked out during its first screening. Or that despite its rocky start and initial failure at the box office, it would go on to become one of the most referenced films in hip-hop culture, selling over 100,000 VHS copies at an astounding $79.95 each, during an era when home video was just beginning. When Universal Pictures set out to remake the 1932 Gangster classic, they never imagined their $37 million investment would first be labeled a box office disappointment, only to later become one of the most influential crime films ever made. In an era where gangster movies were expected to be subtle and sophisticated like The Godfather, Scarface dared to be bold, brash, and unapologetically excessive. The question is, how did a film that critics initially panned become the most iconic gangster movie of all time? In 1983, Scarface exploded onto theater screens, promising an unprecedented look at the dark side of the American dream through the eyes of a Cuban immigrant turned cocaine kingpin. What audiences got was a symphony of violence, memorable quotes, and an operatic performance by Al Pacino that would redefine what a gangster movie could be. 4 decades later, and Tony Montana's blood-soaked rise and fall hasn't just survived, it's become the template for countless crime dramas and a cultural touchstone that transcends the genre. In this video, we're going to break down the 7 reasons why Scarface is still revered as the ultimate rise-to-power gangster movie of all time. But before we dive deeper, here's a real quick ask that if you're new to the channel or haven't already subscribed, please take a second to hit the subscribe button to stay up to date with our related videos. One small click for you is a huge deal for us. Thanks. Number 1. The cultural impact. From "Say hello to my little friend" to "The world is yours," the movie has given us countless memorable gangster quotes, making Scarface stand apart. It's not just about the quotable lines or the violence, it's about how the film redefined the American dream through the eyes of an outsider willing to take it by force. While The Godfather showed us the sophisticated criminal aristocracy, and Goodfellas gave us the working-class wise guy, Scarface dared to present a different kind of anti-hero. Tony Montana wasn't born into the mob, nor did he work his way up through an established criminal hierarchy. He was an immigrant who started with nothing and bulldozed his way to the top through sheer force of will. What makes Scarface's cultural impact truly unique is its evolution from a commercial disappointment to a cultural phenomenon. The film's initial release in 1983 was met with mixed reactions. Critics were shocked by its violence, and audiences weren't quite ready for its brutal portrayal of the American dream gone wrong. But something unexpected happened. The movie found its true audience on home video and cable TV. The film's visual style, its pastel-colored vision of 1980s Miami, has become so influential that it's practically created its own genre. The Scarface aesthetic can be seen in countless music videos, fashion shoots, and advertising campaigns. The movie's poster featuring Tony Montana in his white suit with his little friend has become one of the most recognizable pieces of movie marketing ever created. Perhaps most significantly, Scarface changed how we tell stories about immigrants in American cinema. While earlier gangster films often featured immigrants, they typically focused on established ethnic communities. Number 2. Al Pacino's iconic performance. At the heart of Scarface's enduring appeal lies Al Pacino's transformative performance as Tony Montana. Director Brian De Palma allowed Pacino to approach the role operatically, letting the acclaimed actor unleash a hurricane of charisma and fury that would define the character forever. Unlike his subtle, calculated portrayal of Michael Corleone in The Godfather, Pacino's Tony Montana was a force of nature. His thick Cuban accent, explosive temper, and magnetic screen presence created a character that was simultaneously repulsive and mesmerizing. Even when the movie was panned by critics, Pacino's performance was singled out as a tour de force. What's particularly remarkable is how Pacino managed to make such an unlikable character so compelling. Tony Montana is crude, violent, and ultimately self-destructive, yet audiences couldn't take their eyes off him. His famous line, "Say hello to my little friend," wasn't just a quotable moment. It was the culmination of a character arc that had been building to an explosive finale. Number 3. The troubled production. The path to bringing Scarface to the screen was anything but smooth. The project began as a remake of the 1932 Howard Hawks classic, which itself was loosely based on the life of Al Capone. However, screenwriter Oliver Stone and director Brian De Palma had a different vision. They wanted to tell a story about the contemporary cocaine trade in Miami. The production immediately faced resistance from Miami's Cuban community, who feared the film would stereotype them as criminals. The controversy was so intense that the production had to move its filming to California. Only 10 days of exterior shots were actually filmed in Miami, under careful supervision. The film's graphic violence and excessive drug use caused another hurdle. The Motion Picture Association of America initially gave Scarface an X rating, which would have been a commercial disaster. De Palma had to fight for his vision, appealing the rating multiple times before finally securing an R rating, though he reportedly snuck back in some of the cuts he'd made to appease the ratings board. Sometimes you just gotta go with your gut and give the world what it really needs. Number 4. The visual style and soundtrack. Brian De Palma's direction created a visual language that perfectly captured the excess of 1980s Miami. The film's sun-drenched palette, with its pastel colors and neon lights, became as iconic as its characters. Even today, the movie's visual influence can be seen in everything from music videos to video games. The film's soundtrack, composed by Giorgio Moroder, was equally groundbreaking. Its pulsing electronic score helped define the era and created a template for how modern crime dramas would sound. The famous nightclub scene, with its swooping camera moves and throbbing music, remains a masterclass in building tension through sight and sound. De Palma's eye for spectacle reached its peak in the film's infamous chainsaw scene, which comes barely 25 minutes into the movie. The sequence was so shocking that it caused some viewers, including novelist Kurt Vonnegut, to walk out of early screenings. Yet it served a purpose, establishing the brutal world Tony Montana would have to navigate and survive. Number 5. The American Dream Gone Wrong. At its core, Scarface is a twisted take on the American dream. Tony Montana arrives in Miami with nothing but ambition and a willingness to do whatever it takes to succeed. His famous line, "In this country, you gotta make the money first. Then when you get the money, you get the power. Then when you get the power, then you get the women," became a dark parody of American capitalism. The film's critique goes deeper than just violence and drugs. Tony's relationship with Elvira and his sister Gina shows his pursuit of wealth corrupts everything he touches. His obsessive need to protect Gina while simultaneously destroying her life through his lifestyle represents the ultimate contradiction of his character. Even Tony's mansion, with its elaborate decorations and over-the-top luxury, serves as a commentary on the hollow nature of material success. The recurring motif of "the world is yours," first seen on a blimp outside Tony's apartment and later appearing as a statue in his mansion, becomes increasingly ironic as we watch his empire crumble. Number 6. Cultural legacy. While Scarface initially struggled at the box office, earning only $66 million worldwide, its true impact would be felt in the decades that followed. The film found a particularly strong resonance in hip-hop culture, where Tony Montana's rise and fall story struck a chord with artists who saw parallels to their own struggles. Rappers from Nas to Jay-Z have referenced Scarface in their lyrics, while the film's posters have become a staple of urban decoration. The movie's influence extended beyond music. It has inspired fashion trends, video games, and countless homages in other films and TV shows. Number 7. The hip-hop connection. What's particularly fascinating is how Scarface found its most devoted audience in a community that wasn't even represented in the film. The movie became a cultural touchstone in hip-hop, with artists seeing Tony Montana's story as a reflection of their own experiences with systemic barriers and the allure of illegal paths to success. As music executive Bill Stepney noted, after Scarface comes out, everybody's speaking in a Tony Montana patois accent and quoting him. It's a phenomenon. The film's themes of outsider status, ruthless ambition, and the price of success resonated deeply with artists trying to make it in the music industry. The movie's influence on hip-hop culture was so profound that it helped save the film from obscurity, turning what could have been a forgotten remake into a cultural phenomenon. Recap of the 7 reasons for immortality. So, why has Scarface remained the most iconic gangster film of all time? First, it's Pacino's performance. His portrayal of Tony Montana isn't just acting, it's a force of nature that redefined what a gangster character could be. Unlike the calculated coolness of Michael Corleone or the streetwise Henry Hill, Montana was raw, unfiltered ambition personified. Second, the film's visual style perfectly captured its era while somehow remaining timeless. The combination of De Palma's direction and Moroder's score created a world that has simultaneously remained realistic and operatic. Third, its quotable dialogue. From "say hello to my little friend" to "all I have in this world is my balls and my word," the script gave us lines that have become part of our cultural vocabulary. Fourth is its unflinching examination of the American dream. While other gangster films touched on similar themes, none were as direct in their critique of capitalism and excess. Fifth, its influence on hip-hop culture, which gave the film a second life and helped cement its place in popular culture. Sixth, it's a perfect blend of a character study and spectacle. The film delivers both emotional depth and blockbuster action sequences, culminating in one of the most memorable finales in cinema history. Finally, its relevance. In an era of increasing wealth inequality and debates about immigration, Scarface's themes feel more pertinent now than ever. And that's it. So, what do you think? Is Scarface truly the greatest gangster film ever made? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into cinema's most influential films. This video was made by movie fans, for movie fans.